What is up, folks? Welcome back to another Fall Obsession podcast episode. My name is Sam Thrash, and I am your show host over here at Fall Obsession. Thank you for tuning in. This week's episode takes us back out into the field to deer camp in Texas, where I sit down with my dad, Mark, to record another podcast. This is one of our favorite settings to podcast in. It's just simple, down to earth, as raw as it comes. And if you're watching the podcast video, you'll gather that from the environment that we're sitting in, everything. And if you're listening, you might notice that our audio sounds a little bit different, just because we're kind of rolling with our basic equipment setup, not the full mics and everything that we normally have. So just sounds a little bit different. But my dad and I sit down to talk about our 2023 season, kind of the balloon that deflated, if you will, when it comes to this year for us, and everything that happened that contributed to that. It was a growing year. It was a year of challenges, a year of overcoming some adversity, and we learned a lot. And so that's what we talk about. And then, as the title of this episode alludes, we also talk about a very unique experience that my dad had this year. One that I'm not sure very many hunters, at least none that I know of, have experienced before. And that is on our deer lease, on our private property. My dad had his pickup truck stolen this year, pretty recently. And so he comes on and tells a story, and how this 200 plus pound boar that he had killed also played into that stolen pickup story. So just one of those things that you can't make it up, and we're excited to share it on our podcast. But before I get to the episode, you guys know the drill. We're going to talk about some partners real quick. First one being Hoot Camo. Hoot is a proud partner of Fall Obsession, and they sponsor our podcast. They're part of the reason that we're able to bring you guys a new episode every week. Hoot makes camouflage. They design and manufacture their own patterns, their own gear. They're based out of Texas, but don't let that stop you. They have gear and products that are relevant all over the place. I've been using Hoot Camo for the better half of this season. I've worn it in Texas. I've worn it in Colorado. And it has performed exceptionally, not just when it comes to the pattern itself and blending in, but also to the durability and the warmth of the gear itself. So go check out Hoot Camo today. Go to their website, shop around. If you guys are looking for a good quality set of camouflage, they're the folks to go see. Their goal is to manufacture gear that, as far as quality goes, is on par with the industry leaders, but is at a price point that blue collar guys just like you and me can afford. And if you go look at their prices, you'll see that, again, looking at a good quality set of camo, you're not going to beat it. They're very affordable. So go check them out. And if you do want to place an order, no matter how big or small, use the code FALLOBSESSION15, and that'll save you some money at checkout. Hoot Camo, go check them out. Next partner is Ridge Rock Hunt Company. Derek and Lacey over there in Mississippi. They book hunts with vetted outfitters across the country. They have a large network of outfits that Derek himself knows and trusts and is comfortable setting his hunters up with. So if you're looking for that next adventure, that bucket list hunt, just want to change it up, whatever it might be, give Derek a call. He works with you on all the details to get you set up with an experience that you're going to enjoy. Ridge Rock Hunt Company, go check him out. Lastly, our next partner is the Outdoor Call radio app. Outdoors Dan from Respect the Game TV. He created an app for hunters and outdoorsmen that you can download on any device, where you can stream hunting shows and podcasts on a loop every single day. You'll catch Fall Obsession podcast on there on Mondays, the same day as our new publications, as well as tons of other episodes and podcasts that you guys all know and love. So go download the Outdoor Call radio app today and start streaming. And go follow Outdoors Dan on social media and on his Facebook. He does a couple of live radio shows every week on local Midwest radio stations. And even if you're not local to one of those stations, he streams those live broadcasts on Wednesdays and Saturdays on his Facebook Live, so you guys can catch him on there. So the Outdoors Dan and the Outdoor Call radio app, go check him out. Last thing I'll say is, if you guys are partnered with or represent your own hunting and outdoor brand in this industry, and you guys are interested in maybe advertising that brand through this podcast in the sponsor segment, you want to partner with us, you want to hear me talking about your company right now, and work with us over here at Fall Obsession, then we want to talk to you. We're excited to talk to you. Go to fallobsession.com/podcast. There's a form on there that you guys can fill out. That'll put you in touch with myself and our production team. We'll talk the details, we'll work something out, and we will make it happen. So if you're interested in partnering with us, go to fallobsession.com/podcast. That's all for now. We're going over to the episode for the season recap and a story unlike any other. You're listening to another Fall Obsession podcast.
Oh, you got her, dude. She's down. Let's go.
Dude, I just shot a deer of a lifetime.
Freaking smoked him.
One with nature, and if you're a believer, one with God.
Definitely gets your heart pumping. Boy, you are in trouble.
Fall Obsession Podcast.
All right, we're back, keeping it casual here in deer camp down here in Texas once again. What's up, guys? My name is Sam, your show host. I'm here with my dad, Mark, hunting on Texas dirt for what is probably going to be maybe my last trip of the season. So, welcome back to the podcast, Dad.
Thank you, son, and welcome, Fall Obsession Nation.
So, we've done this before, obviously, these deer camp episodes, and if you guys are listening to the podcast, you'll notice the audio sounds a little bit different. It's because we're bare bones equipment recording here in deer camp itself. But we did this last year, actually. I don't remember the exact date or episode number, but we did a season recap after we finished the year out here on our lease. So we're kind of doing the same thing again this year. We got a couple of different talking points and everything, but we want to talk to you about just where we started the year versus where we ended it. Certainly, in my mind, wasn't the way we saw it going, because at the beginning of the year, hopes were pretty high. We were seeing a lot of deer. We were seeing good deer. I know I've talked with Nick about this too, about just the quality of bucks that we were seeing early in the year. Was like, oh man, we're going to shoot some studs this year. Mm-hmm. So not quite how things ended up shaping up.
No, and I agree with you. I had high hopes for the year coming into it because of the deer we've seen, the amount of deer, especially the amount of bucks we saw. Mm-hmm. It's something that we had never seen before. And I know most hunters, and maybe I'm unique, but in most hunters' minds, you drive out here thinking, okay, I'm gonna kill in the first hunt, put a deer down, and maybe I'll get a hog in the next couple of days, and and that just didn't happen for us this year.
No. You were able to kill a doe pretty early on in the year.
Yeah, it was the first night you and Wyatt came out, mm-hmm. and y'all came and helped me to get it out of the field.
Yeah.
And I hunted probably the next 3 weeks. I'm self-employed, blue-collar guy, self-employed, so I worked hard so I can take some time off. And I hunted the next 3 weeks, 3-4 days at a time. And the weather was warm, mm-hmm. warmer than normal. It was, in the 70s and 80s and sunny, and the deer didn't show up. I'd be out here 3 days, I wouldn't see a deer. 4 days, I wouldn't see a deer. And I was hunting hard. I was coming back to the camper, grabbing a bite to eat, and then I'm back out in the field again. So I wasn't, morning hunt, evening hunt, and that's it. Mm-hmm. And I didn't see anything. And this trip, I'd had high hopes, of, okay, a deer the first night, a pig the second night, And I've had 4 hunts so far. I have not seen a deer. And you came out last night, and when I saw you, I said, "How many deer did you see?" You said 8. Wow. And I was going, "Wow, I have not seen one."
Well, eight deer versus playable deer that you can actually get a shot at, especially with a bow, is a different story. So yes, I did see 8 deer last night.
Single file.
But single file, just through the trees. I was just counting them as they went by, about 120 yards out. Just one doe after another. 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 8. Just walking through, and never saw them other than that little window that I had looking back into the mesquites back there. So how's that?
Yeah, and I had high expectations. I mentioned you have the same thing, and we dealt with a lot of technical issues this year, if you will.
Yeah.
More so than last year, and the technical issues being our feeders got jammed up with protein, particularly, and they wouldn't be spinning, or we're dealing with a popped fuse. or timers that are just off. And we just went around and checked all our cameras and all our stuff just recently.
And we did.
Today.
We did that today before we were recording this episode. We made the rounds and hit up all the stands and went to all of them. But we... It's been frustrating. I mentioned in the truck with you today, I feel like I love coming out here and I love hunting, but I feel like this year especially, every single time I come out here, every single day I'm out here, I spend my afternoon in between the time the morning hunt ends and the evening hunt begins, going from stand to stand, fixing problems, whether it's cameras, feeders, fences, whatever it might be. I'm fixing problems.
Right.
And what's frustrating is it's the same problems over and over again. Maybe not with the same stand, but this stand down here will have an issue with the camera, and this stand up here has an issue with the feeder. And the next time I come out here, the stand up there has a camera issue, and the other one has a feeder issue. It's just it's been constant like that.
Yeah, and today, like the cows, for the first time in years, got into the pen and knocked the feeder over. So
well, and you hunted that stand last night.
I hunted last
night. We came in this morning, and the feeder was on the ground.
Yeah.
So that was, at least we were out here and we were able to fix it quickly. Hopefully, it didn't impact any animal movement, at least, because the cows probably knocked it over this morning. But yeah, it's been frustrating. And as far as the deer goes, like I hunted opening, I don't think I hunted opening weekend of bow in October, but I hunted opening week for a few days, and no success, warm. And I don't think I came out again the rest of the month of October, just because of how warm that it's been. And I was trying, and I know I talked about this a while back in the fall when the season began, about how I was trying to be a little bit more intentional with my hunts and hunt when the weather's going to be better for me and everything. And so me doing that almost wrote off most of the month of
bow season.
So, and then you came out when rifle came in beginning in November, and that's when I came out for a couple trips, I think, at the beginning of November. And leading up to, and we've talked about this in the podcast, episode 165 is the story of this hunt, but when I shot a deer that I didn't recover, nice buck up right, if you're watching the video, 300 yards that way, from camp right here. But that was very frustrating for me. But that on the flip side, that stand, the camp stand, has probably been our most consistent stand that we've had. We've had some issues with the camera, but as far as deer frequenting that location, it's probably been the most consistent. So I've been pleased with that spot, at least.
Yeah, I threw up a ground blind about. Because it's set up for bow hunting, but I threw up a ground blind because I'm a gun hunter, but about 60 yards on this side of it, a little bit to the north, one evening, and saw 6 deer come in. 5 of the 6 were small, and I wasn't desperate to shoot anything like that. So I saw one big one, and she spooked. She saw me and busted me and wouldn't come in, and she had a little fawn with her too. Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, it's been...
but that's been a good stand, the camp stand.
It has been a good stand. Everywhere else has been pretty frustrating.
Spotty, yeah.
And especially during the rut, like when it seemed like things would start to come together. And I don't even know if I've talked about this on the podcast yet. I know it'll be in an episode of Texas Dirt, or at least me talking about it will. But when everything does seem to come together, and I think of me trying to go after the evening before I shot at that buck that I never found, trying to go after the big 8 on the south side, and getting down in there super early, and it was just a slight drizzle, and actually laying eyes on him as I'm driving in, chasing a doe. I'm like, he's down here. I just saw him run down there. He's down there.
Right.
Like, hopes are high, and then you catch the neighbor trespassing on your property at 4:30 in the afternoon, prime time, and have to go deal with that situation. It's like, this is... It's just, if it's not one thing, it's something else. And that's just been the story of the season. It's just been very frustrating out here ever since the rut, because that was, I think, November 14th or 15th. That was my last hunt out here. and I haven't been back out here since. We're recording this now on January 11th.
Right.
So and this is my first trip back out here since then. So I've been off this property for almost 2 months. And
But I know you had the veteran hunt with Wayland, and then you also had the Colorado mule deer.
yeah, I've had hunts and trips, and that's part of the reason, just balancing, the family work hunt life.
Right.
I had other trips planned, and those trips took priority over getting back out here. And then I told you and Nick when we were out here, middle of November, I was like, these 3 days are my days to kill a buck if I'm going to kill a buck this season, and it was. Now I'm just out here trying to get a doe. I'd be happy with a doe.
Yeah, and we're out here, and for the listeners or people watching, this is called the late season. The general season's over, and in Texas at the general season, you can kill a big buck, 13-inch inside spread, and then a spike. But after the general season, then you can fill the rest of your tags with does.
Right.
So we can't kill a buck, but we can kill does to fill our tags right now. And it goes till through next weekend, next Sunday.
Yes,
Like
we got a
21st.
little over a week left, but
And we're expecting, today's 65, and we're in t-shirt weather. The door of the camper's open, and next Monday, it's supposed to be in the teens. With a 45-mile-an-hour wind or something like that. I don't know.
yeah, we got the winter weather event that's affecting a lot of states apparently is obviously hitting us too. So
Right.
that's going to be the first half of next week. And I know originally I wasn't planning on hunting next week just because we normally take a family ski trip every month in January, and it fell next week. But with all the weather coming in, we're not going. So just have to kind of play it by ear and see what the weather does to determine if this is it for me or if I get out one more time.
Right.
But that's to be determined. But for all intents and purposes, this could be the last hunt of the year. So I got tonight and I got tomorrow morning, and then heading back to the house. But hopefully something will move. Just all these issues we've talked about and everything. That's what's contributed to just a very, very frustrating year, and us not being able to put anything down, because it was like once the rut, like we mentioned, a bunch of anticipation going into the rut, and then once the rut hit and went away, issues started happening left and right, and the deer started disappearing.
Well, and the weather too.
Yeah, it's been unseasonably warm or windy, or it's always something.
And that's what deer hunters deal with.
Right.
We're not unique. You guys out there dealing, you deal with the same thing we're dealing with. It just seems like we had higher hopes and thought we had overcome all the issues and the hurdles.
For sure. I mean, we're looking at trail cam pictures early in the year of 6 to 8 bucks across the entire property that would all be considered, most of them probably shooters. And one of them in particular, which Nick and I talked about in episode 169, a buck we call Palmetto, 160-inch whitetail. So, I mean,
that's big for us.
The best quality, that's the biggest buck we've ever seen out here. So, best quality of deer that we've had out here by far.
Right.
So,
right.
A lot of anticipation and a lot of
frustration
to follow, for sure. And I mean, you live and learn. We're obviously taken away from that with, how can we prevent camera issues, from happening again? How can we prevent feeder issues from happening again? And I know we've already talked about for 2024 and season 4 on Texas Dirt, we're going to be changing up, what we feed. We're going to be changing up. We'll be running the Tacticam Reveal cell cams out here exclusively, next season and everything. So it's hopefully with all that kind of stuff, we're going to be able to remedy some of these issues, because I would like to be able to come here and just hunt during the season and I think all this other stuff.
Yeah, and I think the off season, for instance, that pen that the cows went into, we'll need to redo some of our pens.
Yes.
In the off season, to get them nice, straight, and not bent over when they're that 1,200-pound cow's pushing on it.
Right. So. Exactly. Well, the other part that we want to talk about, this will be a shorter podcast for our listeners in comparison to some of our recent episodes. But the other thing we wanted to discuss was an adventure that you had about a week ago. A week ago today, actually.
Right.
I'll let you tell the story, but it started with success. It started with you being able to to put another critter on the ground in addition to your early season doe.
Right. I was out here last week in January the 3rd. It was like a Wednesday night, and had a big hog, boar run out before dusk, and I killed him. Found him because they tend to run off and hide and get under some shrubbery somewhere. But I found him and field dressed him, and he was big enough. He's about 225 pounds, and I'm an old guy. I needed your young muscle with me.
Yeah,
so it took,
I wasn't out here. You were by yourself.
yeah, I was by myself on all our acreage. So from the time I saw him, shot him, and got him to the truck was 2.5 hours. I mean, it was difficult for me to drag him and get him in the truck. And by then, the processor that we used was closed. It closes at 8. This was about 8:45, and so I thought, okay, it was a cool evening and getting cooler, and so I filled this cavity with ice and figured, okay, that'll last till the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So I get up on Thursday morning, January the 4th. It's foggy. I mean, heavy-duty fog. It's cold, so I have my brights on. I'm going, the gravel roads, going to my stand, and went to this stand where I could hopefully kill something, and parked because of the fog. There's a road. I make a U-turn, but I just parked on an incline just off the main road, and got on my truck, walked to the stand, sat down to hunt. Didn't see anything that morning. Well, no, I take that back. I saw a doe, and she was in front of me until 4 minutes before shooting light, and then she disappeared. So I'm waiting. I got her in my scope. I'm thinking, okay, give me 4 more minutes, and you're in my freezer. Mm-hmm. And she disappeared. So at 8:45, I get out of my stand, walk back to my truck, and my truck's not there, Sam. It's gone. And I thought, I parked it here, and I thought, okay, let me look down in the ditch and make sure it didn't roll off, and it didn't. And I'm standing off the side of the road looking, thinking, okay, what happened here? And I hear a vehicle there's a rise about 50 feet from me to the east, and I hear a vehicle coming over that rise. I can't see it, and it comes over the top, and it's my truck at high rate of speed. So I step off the road because I'm on the road. It's a gravel road, and I yell at the guy, "Hey!" And he just drives by me, and he's stealing my truck. And we're here on 807 acres in the middle of nowhere. Mm-hmm. It's heavy fog. I'm the only one of 4 of us that hunt out here that's out here. So I'm thinking, I put my keys under the seat.
Yeah.
I don't lock my truck. I mean, it's, who's going to steal it?
And that's where, we have, for all the oil wells on the place, there's guys that run through to manage those, but these guys are always just by themselves in their own pickups. They're not going to steal a truck. We've had 0 issues in 3 years with any of the well guys messing with trucks or our camper or anything out here. So we have gotten comfortable in that sense, but to your point, private property, over 800 acres, you are literally smack dab in the middle of it where you were hunting.
Right.
And yeah, you and Nick's dad and I mean, we're all guilty of either leaving our truck unlocked or leaving the keys in our truck when we go. We've all done it before, just not thinking about it.
Yeah. So anyway, so he drives by me. I start walking back to the trailer. It's about 1.5 miles, and so I take myself and call 911. I've never called 911 in my life. Call 911. What's your emergency? I said, my truck's just been stolen. They drove right by me. And she goes, okay, and they got, she had other questions I answered, And so I'm walking back, and I'm talking to you, by the way. I called my wife, and she said, here's what you need to do, and call Sam. So I called you, and I'm walking down the road, and a guy who works in the wells out here I met last year, he's coming towards me, and so I'm talking to you, and he slows his truck down, stops, rolls his window, the passenger window down, and he's on the phone, and he says, yeah, I'm standing here with a guy that just got his truck stolen. So he has a radio, or somehow he's in contact with the authorities, and he's a firefighter, off-duty firefighter. Mm-hmm. So he knew all kinds of people, and so he picked me up, and we drove back to the front gate. He called the sheriff, and the sheriff met me out here, and apparently this guy who stole my truck he and his girlfriend were in the local Walmart the day before shoplifting, and there
was a constable, like a civilian pointed out to a constable that was also in Walmart, hey, something's up with these two. And when he confronted them, they took off running. And I don't remember if it was their car or if they stole a car out of the Walmart parking lot. And it turned into this big police chase
all day over Stevens County.
With the local city PD, with the sheriff's department, with the state troopers. Everybody was involved all over the whole county. And
he evaded them all day long.
All day long. Like, the troopers are throwing out spike strips, all for shoplifting is how it started. And this guy has other priors, is what we were told and everything. And he has, warrants out for him already. But he ended up crashing the day before all this happened with you. He ended up crashing that car in
a pond.
In just a pond, like in the middle of a field, like a stock pond,
right.
a cattle pond. And they take off, and then the news article, at least that we read later on, said that the night before he stole your truck, they found the girlfriend hiding out in a dumpster southeast of the town that all this had happened in, which aligns with, the relative direction of our property. So we're just assuming that he wandered around all night, which it was a cold night to wander around, in all honesty, but he wandered around all night and either saw you pull in the morning or happened upon your truck. We're not really sure, but
I think he probably saw me pull in just because, only vehicle, and he's trying to get away. So he takes it, and we looked at the fence he went through. You followed it last week.
Well, yeah. So from my side of this story, you had sent that morning when you were hunting. You had sent me a text at 7:30 or 8 o'clock saying, I'm probably going to go home after the morning hunt today. I'm not seeing much, or something like that.
Right.
And then you call me, an hour or so later when you're getting out. And my thought when I saw my phone ring was, oh, maybe he shot something. Maybe. And so, I asked you, how are you? And you're like, well, I'm not too good. My truck just got stolen. And I'm just...
and it's a 19-year-old truck.
Yeah, it's not a new pickup at all.
It's 19 years old.
But
it works.
I'm just trying to process what you just told me, too. I'm like, wait, what did you just say? I didn't know what to do with it. And so this guy, after he left you, what he ended up doing, it was obvious that he did not know our property. He did not know the way out.
Right.
Because if he had taken, from where he stole the pickup, if he had taken the correct way out, he would have left the property a lot sooner, or he would have gotten back to a county road a lot sooner. But instead, he took a wrong turn, and that wrong turn took him through 2 sets of gates that he just blew through in your truck, blew him off the hinges, mangled on the ground. To leave our property. And from there we can see just the muddy tire tracks going through the neighbor's wheat field, as he takes off. And then we found out later that apparently he drove through 3 or 4 more fences on the neighbor's property before he ever even got back to a county road.
Yeah, so he cracked up a lot of damage, not huge damage, but lots of damage, minor stuff and some bigger stuff to my truck's been deemed a total loss, I think.
Yeah.
So Sam comes out to picks me up. We load my stuff in, and I've got a statement to take to the sheriff's office. And so we drive with the sheriff's office, and they need a sheriff there to see me sign it, make it correct, and he's got to sign it too. And the lady says to me, she says to Sam and I, she says, "Oh, well, they found your truck." Mm-hmm. And Sam and I are sitting at the bench in the sheriff's outside in the hallway. And I looked at you, and the first thing I said was, I wonder if it's drivable. And that was the second thing.
And then the second thing we said was, I wonder if the hog's still in the back.
Because I got this 225-pound hog. He's like this. He's been gutted, and he's just laying like this.
Legs up,
and he's in the truck. And I told the sheriff, I said, now, the way you'll know my truck is there'll be a big hog in the back.
Yeah, look for my little business logo on the side and look for a dead pig in the bed of the truck.
Yeah. And so the sheriff took us over to where the truck was, and they had all these mesquite branches and all this stuff in the back of my truck, but that hog was still there.
Yep, the hog was still in there. He had obviously driven through a bunch of stuff. I honestly, for as much as he drove through, I know your truck is totaled, but as much as he drove through, I was surprised there wasn't more damage.
Me too.
Especially the gates he was driving through.
Right.
But the truck, some decent body damage to that for sure. Like you mentioned, at least mechanically drivable, like you were able to drive it home when it was all said and done.
Right.
But yeah, that hog was still in the bed.
And we took it to the processor.
Well, and that's the thing, like I remember you're like, I want to go to Ray's. I want to take it to the processor. And we're sitting there and we're trying to finish it with the sheriff because it was an overcast day. It had been foggy that morning. It was in the 30s overnight, and this is noon-ish, 1 o'clock at this point.
It's still cool.
It had just barely broken 40 degrees at this point. This pig's still good. So it's like, hey, we're taking it to the processor. So we pull in the processor, and the guy's looking at your truck and everything. Or was it the late? You tell us.
Well, I pulled in, and so it's a big pig, and I said, yes. And I said, you wouldn't believe where this pig has been. I said, my truck got stolen this morning, and the kid goes, oh, I know, I heard about that.
The whole town knew about it.
Yeah.
And he goes inside, he's like, y'all gotta come out here. And everybody that works the processor walks outside.
That's the truck that was stolen.
Yeah, that's the truck that was stolen. This is the guy that got his truck stolen. He had that pig in the back. Like, everybody just talking about it.
My wife, your mom, said the other day, she says, y'all will be famous in this town because of the Prius last year and because of the stolen truck this year.
For those that haven't heard that story, like Nick Powell, he still drives a Toyota Prius out here, our production director at Fall Obsession. And so whenever he kills a deer, he just straps it to the roof and takes it to the processor.
Through town.
Through town to the processor. And he did that last year with a doe.
And there's 3 stoplights through town.
Stoplights. Somebody took a picture of him and posted it on Facebook. And the next day, he's leaving to go home and is met at the gate to the property by an oil field guy that's coming in. And the guy's like, hey, are you the guy that was driving through town yesterday with a deer on top of your Prius? Because he's watching a guy drive out of the woods in a Toyota Prius. And
right.
It's so funny in this small little town how quickly the word gets around, you know.
Yeah.
So, and we're not locals to this area, so they don't know us, but they certainly have heard about us.
Heard our stories, yeah. But all to say is, we got the truck back, it's drivable, but that was kind of because I was hoping to hunt 2 or 3 more days, and that kind of threw a wrench into all that schedule. And the guy's still at large. He parked my truck in an area where there's duplexes, and apparently a witness saw him get out of the truck and get in another truck, and they left.
He stole.
So he's still at large.
He stole a bunch of tools and stuff out of your pickup as well. So had an unfortunate situation.
Yeah,
for
that
sure.
first time that's ever happened to me. Probably rarely for hunters, but it probably has happened to someone.
I'm sure it's happened to other people out there, and maybe somebody listening or watching here has experienced something similar or heard of something. I'd be certainly curious if you have, because nobody that I know that's a hunter has ever had their pickup stolen from their deer lease. I've heard of people like breaking into, like they'll know where a cabin is or a hunt camp is or something like that, and they might break into a hunt house or a camper or something like that, at camp. But as far as finding somebody's pickup in the middle of the woods while they're out hunting and stealing it, I've never heard of that happening.
Well, and a rational person would leave it alone because you're figuring someone's got firearms somewhere, whether it be in the camper or in his possession, like you carry a 9mm on you, and I'm standing by the side of the road with my rifle, but I'm not gonna shoot a guy for a 19-year-old truck.
Yeah. So that's just we obviously wanted to share that story with
just one of the
with our listeners.
Ice cream on top for the season.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I'll never forget that phone call for sure. And I remember I called Nick as I'm getting the kids loaded up and getting ready to come down here and get you. And I called Nick and I was like, hey, so something interesting just happened at the deer lease, and Nick told me, he's like, I was expecting you to say something like, Dad shot a giant, or, Dad had this happen, or whatever. And Nick told me, he's like, the last thing I thought you would say is that your dad's truck got stolen.
Your dad's 19-year-old truck, his beat up got stolen.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
but...
And Robbie was surprised too. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and it just even if he did see you drive in and stuff, still just happenstance that he was in the right place, because like you said, it was super foggy that morning, so he had to be close enough watching you drive in to see your headlights.
Well,
the fog
and the good thing too also is him driving by me at 8:45 and me being able to call the 911 pretty quickly after, and they knew who it was because they've been chasing this guy all day before. So.
And that's the thing. You told me it was roughly, if not less than 10 minutes from the time you called to the time you were talking yourself to the sheriff in person out here.
Right.
And that's just because they started, because it was so foggy, they've been chasing this guy all day the day before. It's so foggy, they can't do anything overnight.
Right.
So first thing in the morning, as soon as it starts getting light, they're resuming their
putting roadblocks up on some certain roads that lead out of here.
So they were already out and about and covering the area, the southeast area, which is where our property, leads to, and they were quick to jump on it when they heard somebody else's vehicle got stolen. So,
well, I hope for those of you who are listening, I hope your season went better than ours.
Yeah, with
less frustrations than ours.
Like we said, one thing after another, these technical frustrations, stuff like this that you can't make up, or even just other stuff that sets you back. Like yesterday evening, I was going to my stand, left on time, going in for the evening hunt, and I normally park on these oil well pads, just because I have a white pickup. All the well guys drive white pickups. Deer are used to seeing white pickups parked at these sites, so it's no big deal. And they're reasonably close to most of our stands. And I pull into the one at the bow blind we've had out here since year one, and there's oil and water leaking all over the ground, all over the road, running down the road. It's like, oh my gosh. So I have to call the number on the sign and talk to people and tell them where it's at and the well number and all that, and then they put me on with one of their field guys, and he talks me through shutting down one of the things to stop the leak. So it ended up being like 45 minutes that I'm just sitting there on the well pad messing around with this. And then you
were to go in.
And then when I finally got geared up and went in, I guess one of their guys was close enough. He's pulling up as I'm walking in the woods, so I turn around, I walk back out and talk to him and show him, because at that point I turned it off and the oil leak had stopped. But I wanted to show him the video I took of where it was leaking from. That way he knew what to tell the guys to fix. And today, I don't know if y'all, again, we're using kind of bare bones equipment out here in deer camp, but if y'all have heard vehicles driving up and down the road kind of in the background, that's the well guys, because they have now, thanks to me, 2 different well sites out here that they've been working on all day doing repairs on. So, there's been a bunch of traffic coming through here today with them, but it's stuff like that just adds up over time, and kind of wears on you a little bit.
Can't do anything about it.
Can't do anything about it. That's the thing. But try to learn from some of it and what you can adjust for the following year. And that's the plan for 2024.
Yeah.
And
we're not done.
No, we got 2 more hunts next 24 hours or so, and I don't see.
Maybe next week, but I mean, we're not done next year. We'll make some changes and add some things and maybe do some things a little differently, and we'll have high expectations next year, and we'll see if we, something will come of that.
Yeah, exactly.
It will one day.
Well, for our listeners tuning in, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys listening to a podcast out of deer camp. Thanks for bearing with us and our bare bones equipment and everything we got out here. But if you guys haven't already, if you're a new listener to the show, be sure that you subscribe and like the let me back up on that. If you guys are a new listener to the show, be sure that you follow and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on, whether it's one of the major podcast platforms or YouTube or Carbon TV. Wherever you guys are tuning in, be sure you follow along. We post weekly episodes on here. And then hit up all the social medias too. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X, whatever it is now, all those things. So,
and be sure to watch the Flatland Mule Deer. That's an excellent video. Yes,
we mentioned briefly my trip to Colorado, and yeah, we have a video on our YouTube channel titled Flatland Deer Country. a fall obsession film.
And you said Tim had texted you today that Tim's grandmother was in town, in Colorado. What happened on that?
He just texted me and said that she was in town and had gone to the bank, I guess, and her bank teller was talking to her about having watched it and everything and how much she enjoyed it. So yeah,
you'll enjoy watching it.
Yeah, it's a good little film. We enjoyed putting it together, and definitely an experience that I personally will cherish for a long time. And cool that we get to go back and watch the video again on it. So if you haven't watched Flatland Deer Country, go to YouTube and check it out. But thank you guys for listening. You can probably hear my dog drinking in the background by now. Like I said, we're in deer camp and we're keeping it casual. But thanks for listening. We're back again next week for another podcast, and I'll see y'all then.